You know, I need to make a comment on something because having to hear the name repeatedly on a constant basis. All right, Letitia James. So let's go ahead and clarify how devastated she could be if this went unnoticed by everybody else in the country other than me. Okay? Pattern of behavior. All right? Motive, intent, opportunity. All right? So, Letitia James now going ahead and being questioned as far as prosecutorial misconduct. All right? As well as trying to defend being the prosecutor when it comes to the whole Trump case. All right? Now, she's tried to defend that there was no impropriety. All right? And that ultimately she was doing her job. Now, ultimately, she would want plausible deniability regardless, But when somebody campaigns on, oh, we're going to start an investigation and, I'm going to make my entire campaign running on no matter what. All right, the words no matter what being the main ones. That she will secure conviction. All right? Now understand, the words no matter what can imply guilt on her end. All right? Because no matter what means I will go ahead and accomplish the task regardless. All right? Now, what does regardless mean? Regardless could mean a lot of things. Regardless could mean I'll secure a conviction no matter what, regardless of how politically motivated the investigation is in the first place, and whether or not I end up going ahead and, violating somebody's constitutional rights, despite the factor that, this person has done many of shady business dealings. All right? Because, once you end up going ahead and violating their constitutional rights at that point, ultimately that ends up, being cause for either change of prosecution. It requires either recusal or dismissal or a declaratory mistrial. All right? But another factor. All right? There's a case, and the fucked up thing is, the reason that I found out about this case was because I found out that same prosecutor went to go prosecute somebody that I went to high school with. All right? And now let me tell you, me and this person, we were not friends. All right? But the motivational reasons behind it, very fucking different than what the rumor mill or hearsay wanted to go ahead and put. All right? So the funny thing is, Letitia James, ended up going ahead and handling a case called Andriani versus State. All right? Now, the lawsuit. All right? The lawsuit was because of the factor that he ended up being wrongfully confined on the execution of a parole requirement warrant. All right? So apparently, parole violation. Now here's the thing. He wasn't on parole. Alright? Now the fucked up thing. When I was a teenager, I was on probation. Alright? It was a family court probation. Not a criminal court probation. A family court probation. It was part of a requirement for that fucking program persons in need of supervision. Alright? Now understand, the factor of, any crimes or anything like that, when I was a kid, I ended up taking money that got paid back. Alright? I paid it back. I paid it back in full. Not a penny owed. Alright? Now, still had to deal with the legal recourse, which I did. Alright? I ended up going ahead and finishing out my probation. Didn't violate my probation. And then when I ended up moving to another state, apparently, I ended up going ahead and getting locked up on behest of the state that I previously resided in. Apparently. Now, here's another interesting factor about this case, alright? Now, Andriani, he moved around quite a bit. Thing is, though, he had familial ties to 2 different states. Alright? Now, what were those 2 states? One, Tallahassee, Florida. So he had family in Tallahassee. I had family out in Miami. Alright? So, having family out in Florida, he had family in Tallahassee, I had family in Miami. He lived in Bohemia. I lived in Farmingville. Alright? So, out-of-state family in Florida, residing in New York. So obviously, different states distanced from each other. Despite the fact that I don't know how well he knew his family and everything like that. But we didn't exactly like each other. Reason why we didn't like each other? In his mind, he thought that I was a loser who would not be good in relationships, would not be good, with, literally too insecure to be able to end up securing a relationship or being in one, despite the fact of most of my relationships being long-term and way too fucking drawn out, to be honest with you, considering the things that I had to try to look the other way about. But he ended up going to a NA meeting. Ended up causing somebody who their drug of choice was a stimulant, caused her to relapse. Ended up giving it to her under the condition that she sleep with him. And ended up doing that after, this was somebody that I had been potentially wanting to romantically pursue. Whether she was into me or not, doesn't even matter at that point. But I had met her because of people that I was working with at the time. So, I didn't know about her substance issues. Right? Because if I would have known about her substance issues, that would have been enough for me to be like, you know what? I want somebody that wants to have an incentive, their incentive of wanting to be with me is me, not the incentive of what they could get out of me. Needless to say, whether or not he ended up getting hit with a sexual assault charge because of that, I don't know. Because of coercing that person into sex. But while he did that, he had actually had a girlfriend. Alright? She went to the same school that we did. Alright? And now keep in mind, she lived in the same town as him. So it's not like, too far of a distance to see each other or anything like that. But he cheated on her by seducing somebody else with an illegal substance. Cheated on the person that he was with. The person that he was with, they had their own issues. So ultimately, it's like a whole bunch of clusterfuck of drama that didn't want any involvement with. But circumstances are just fucked. Because, I mean, a lot of the problems that I ended up dealing with were created because of what the fuck he did. So because I had moved, he wanted to claim that I was the perpetrator for whatever shit he ended up doing. And it ended up costing me a lot of issues in my life. You know, including issues with the school that I went to. Because like I said, we went to the same school. Now understand, the statistical probability of things lining up this way, I understand. I need to go ahead and buy a scratch off. Like, the statistical probability of the way things ended up lining up, I need to start going ahead and investing in scratch offs. But the factor that I ended up getting wrongfully confined, you know, because of the factor that it was assumed that I was the culprit of what he ended up doing. Then he ended up in a lawsuit with the prosecutor, who now the prosecutor is being investigated for prosecutorial misconduct. Ironically enough, I've been studying for years to be able to... Everyone that knew me knew double major, law, psychology. That's what I was working towards. Wanted to get a master's degree. Wanted to go ahead and, you know, like I had actually planned out my future. Alright? So the factor that now Letitia James, and the whole situation with Nathan Wade, is on the news perpetually. While meantime, what Trump's lawyers actually need, if they want to be able to secure that win, they need to go ahead and try to break down her character the way that she had been trying to break down Trump's character, despite the fact that it is easy as fuck to be able to dismantle his character. But with Letitia James, wrongful arrest in an attempt to create the illusion of impropriety to try to seal a conviction without the evidence backing it up, while trying to go ahead and set up a bluff, be like, nope, you don't get to see what I got going on. You just have to take my word for it. And my word is there's no way you're getting out of this without ending up losing your freedom for the rest of your existence. That's not the way the legal system works. So, Letitia James, I just want to go ahead and clarify something for you. With your name being splattered all over the news right now, if I call Crime Stoppers tip line, and I go ahead and clarify them, with the whole situation with Letitia James and Nathan Wade and the, improprieties, if you go ahead and look up Andriani versus State of New York, you will notice Letitia James has a history and a pattern of behavior of prosecutorial misconduct. And that will change everything. So you might want to go ahead and go forward, because the threats of, will he lose his freedom? Will he not lose his freedom? All it takes is one person with a cell phone to go ahead and point out Andriani versus the State of New York, and the entirety of that case and that, investigation. Yeah, the feds get brought in, and at that point, the prosecutors who, engaged in prosecutorial misconduct, at that point, they're no longer the ones going ahead and, speaking up. At that point, they're the criminal defendants.